The black SUV didn't slow down as it turned into the narrow street. It glided in like it owned the place. Heads turned instantly. Kids stopped playing basketball. A group of men outside a corner store went quiet. Even the old woman who always sat by the sidewalk selling fruits paused mid-count. Nobody drove cars like that into this neighborhood. Then a second SUV followed, and a third. By the time the convoy came to a smooth stop beside a small roadside food stand, the entire block was watching. The door of the first SUV opened. Polished shoes touched the ground. Then he stepped out. Tailored suit, clean cut, calm presence. The kind of man people didn't question. They studied, but his eyes didn't scan the crowd. They locked onto one person. Behind the glass window of the small food stand, a woman stood frozen, her hand still holding a plastic cup she had been about to fill. For a second, time didn't move. Then he started walking toward her, each step steady, intentional. People moved out of his way without being asked. The closer he got, the more her breathing changed. Her fingers tightened slightly around the cup. He stopped right in front of the counter. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then his voice came low and certain. "Hey." Her eyes flickered. Just for a second, he smiled faintly. "I told you I'd come back." Silence. The kind that presses against your chest. She looked at him. Really looked this time. Not the suit, not the cars, his face. And something in her expression almost broke, almost, but then it disappeared, replaced with something colder, distant, professional. "I'm sorry," she said flatly, setting the cup down like nothing mattered. "You've got the wrong person." The words hit harder than anything. A few people in the crowd murmured. The man didn't move, didn't blink. "What?" he asked quietly. "I don't know you," she continued, already turning to attend to another customer, like he wasn't even there. "If you're not ordering, you're holding up the line." A man behind him chuckled awkwardly. "Bro, you heard her?" But he didn't move. His jaw tightened slightly. "You don't recognize me?" he asked again, softer now, but heavier. She didn't look at him this time. "What would you like to order, sir?" It was like she erased him, like everything he carried all these years meant nothing. The air shifted. Even the people watching could feel it. Something wasn't right. He took a slow breath, then nodded once. "All right," he said. No anger, no shouting, just quiet. He stepped back, turned, and walked away. The same way he came, controlled, composed, but something in his shoulders had changed. The SUV door opened for him again. He got in, and just like that, the convoy pulled off, leaving behind dust, whispers, and one woman who hadn't moved. Not really, because the moment the cars disappeared, her hand gripped the edge of the counter, tight. Her breathing broke, and her eyes shut for just a second longer than normal. But when she opened them again, she went right back to work, like nothing had happened. Years earlier, nobody would have believed this moment was possible. Back then, he didn't have polished shoes. He didn't have a suit. He didn't even have a place to sleep. He had hunger and anger and a stubborn refusal to stay down. Most nights he drifted between bus stops and subway stations, pretending he was just waiting for something that never came. People passed him like he didn't exist. Some looked at him with pity. Most didn't look at all. But she did. The first time she saw him, he was sitting behind the small diner where she worked, his back against the wall, eyes half closed like he didn't have the energy to stay awake. She stepped out with a trash bag and paused. "You okay?" she asked. He didn't answer at first, then barely audible, "Yeah." It was a lie. An obvious one. She hesitated, then walked back inside. A minute later she came back out with a small paper bag. She held it out. He looked at it, then at her. "I can't pay for that," he said. "I didn't ask you to," she replied simply. He took it slowly, opened it. Food, real food, not leftovers from the trash, something fresh. He looked up at her again. "Why?" She shrugged. "You looked like you needed it." That was it. No speech, no pity, just simple. He nodded once. "Thanks." She smiled slightly. "Don't make it a habit," she said, half joking. But he did. Not in a way that took advantage, in a way that kept him alive. Days turned into weeks. He started showing up less like a stranger, and more like someone expected. She'd leave food aside without making a big deal out of it. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. But little by little, something built. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked her one night. "All the time," she said. "Doesn't mean I can." "You can," he said. She laughed. "Yeah? With what money?" He didn't answer that. Not then. But he remembered it. Every word, every moment, every time she treated him like he mattered when the world didn't. One night, rain poured down harder than usual. The streets were almost empty. He stood outside the diner, soaked, waiting. She stepped out under the small shelter, arms crossed. "You're gonna get sick standing there." "I've been worse," he said. She shook her head. "Come here." She moved slightly, making space for him under the cover. For a moment they just stood there, listening to the rain. Then he spoke. "I'm leaving." She turned to him. "What?" "I can't stay here," he said. "If I do, this is it. This is all I'll ever be." Her expression shifted. "You got somewhere to go?" "I'll figure it out." "That's not a plan." "It's better than staying," he replied. She looked at him for a long second. "You always this stubborn?" "Only when it matters." Silence stretched between them. Then he said it, the thing that would echo for years. "When I make it out," he paused, looking straight at her. "I'm coming back for you." She blinked. "What?" "I mean it," he said. "I'm not staying like this forever. And when I get where I'm going—" She cut him off with a small laugh. "You don't even know where you're going." "I will." "And you think you're just going to come back here and what? Sweep me off my feet?" He didn't smile, didn't joke. "I'm going to marry you." That made her pause, really pause, because he wasn't playing. She shook her head slightly. "You're crazy." "Maybe," he said. "But I'm not wrong." She studied him, then looked away. "You better not forget me," she said quietly. "I won't." But life doesn't run on promises, and sometimes coming back is harder than leaving. He didn't leave with a plan. He left with a promise. The morning he disappeared, the city didn't notice. No one stood at the bus station waiting for him. No one asked where he was going, except her. She stood a few steps back, arms folded tightly, trying to look like she wasn't affected. "You really doing this?" she asked. "Yeah." "With nothing?" "I've had nothing my whole life," he said. "I'll figure it out." She scoffed lightly, but there was no humor in it. "You're crazy." "You said that already." "And I meant it both times." A short silence followed. Cars passed, people moved. Life kept going like this moment didn't matter. But to them, it did. She stepped a little closer. "What if it doesn't work?" she asked quietly. He looked at her. "Then I'll try something else." "And if that doesn't work?" "I'll keep trying." She shook her head. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," he said. "But staying here is harder." That hit her, because she knew it was true. She looked down for a second, then back up at him. "Don't disappear on me," she said. "I won't." "You better not come back acting like you forgot where you came from." "I won't," he repeated. Another pause. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a cheap bracelet, worn from use. She hesitated before handing it to him. "For luck," she said. He looked at it, then at her. "You serious? Take it or leave it." He took it, carefully, like it mattered. "Thanks." "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "Go prove something first." He smirked faintly. "I will." He turned, walked toward the bus, but just before stepping on, he stopped, looked back at her one last time. "I meant what I said." She didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. Then he got on the bus, and just like that, he was gone. The first few months nearly broke him. Reality didn't care about promises. Reality demanded proof. He slept on couches when he could, on floors when he had to, on the streets when there was no other option. Every job he got felt temporary. Every opportunity slipped through his fingers just as quickly as it came. You don't have experience. You don't have references. You don't have stability. The words repeated over and over until they almost sounded normal. One night, sitting outside a closed convenience store, he stared at the bracelet in his hand. "You said you'd figure it out," he muttered to himself. For the first time, doubt crept in. Meanwhile, back in the neighborhood, life didn't get easier for her either. If anything, it got worse. The diner cut her hours, then her manager changed. Then came the pressure. "You're not serious about your future," her aunt said one evening. "I am." "Then why are you still stuck in that place?" "I'm working on it." "Working on what? Feeding strangers who can't help you?" That stung, because she knew exactly who her aunt was talking about. "I didn't do it for anything in return," she said. "That's your problem," her aunt snapped. "You give too much to people who have nothing to give back." She didn't respond, because arguing wouldn't change anything. But that night, lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling longer than usual, wondering. Not if she made the right choice, but if it would ever matter. Months turned into a year turned into 2. He stopped counting days, started counting progress, small at first, then slightly bigger. He picked up skills wherever he could, sales, negotiation, anything that made people listen. He failed more times than he succeeded, but something about him didn't quit. One afternoon changed everything. He was working a low-level job, running errands for a small business owner who barely noticed him. Until one day, he spoke up. "That deal you're about to take," he said, "you're losing money on it." The man looked at him. "Excuse me." He hesitated for a second, then pushed forward. "You're underpricing yourself. If you position it differently, you could double that." Silence. The man studied him. "You think you know my business better than me?" "No," he said honestly, "but I think you're moving too fast." Another pause, then explain. That moment was the first door. He didn't get everything right, but he got enough right, enough to be noticed, enough to be kept around. And slowly, things started to shift. Back home, she stopped asking about him, not out loud. At first, people would bring it up just to mock her. "Your rich boyfriend come back yet? Still waiting for your fairy tale?" She'd brush it off, laugh it away. "I don't know what you're talking about." But over time, the jokes stopped, because she stopped reacting, stopped hoping, stopped expecting, or at least, that's what she told herself. One night, closing up the stand, a co-worker nudged her. "You ever think about leaving this place?" She froze for half a second, then shrugged. "Sometimes." "What's stopping you?" She didn't answer immediately, then finally, "Life." The co-worker nodded like they understood, but they didn't. Not really, because it wasn't just life, it was timing, it was responsibility. It was everything piling up at once, and somewhere deep down, it was the memory of a promise she didn't know whether to believe anymore. Years passed. Not slowly, not gently. They passed the way life does, fast when you're surviving. He built something. Not overnight, not easily, but undeniably. His confidence changed first, then his network, then his opportunities, and finally, his status. He wasn't the boy from the street anymore. People listened when he spoke. They respected him. Some even feared him. But none of that mattered as much as one thing. He never forgot. Not her face, not her voice, not the way she looked at him like he mattered when nobody else did. One evening, sitting alone in his office, he pulled open a drawer. Inside was the bracelet, still there, still intact. He picked it up, turning it slowly in his fingers. "I told you I'd come back," he said quietly. And this time, he meant it more than ever. Success didn't arrive all at once, it crept in quietly. At first, it was just small changes, a better place to sleep, consistent meals, a phone that actually stayed on. Then came bigger shifts. The man who once questioned him started trusting him. "You've got instincts," the man said one afternoon, leaning back in his chair. "Can't teach that." He didn't respond right away. He wasn't used to praise. "Instincts don't mean much without opportunity," he finally said. The man smirked. "Good thing you're standing in front of one." That was the beginning. Not luck, not magic, just a door opening at the right time and him being ready enough to step through it. He learned fast, faster than anyone expected. He studied people, how they talked, how they made decisions, how they hesitated, and most importantly, how they lost. Because every mistake someone else made became a lesson he didn't have to repeat. Years stacked up. So did wins. The same people who once ignored him now returned his calls. The same rooms that once felt out of reach now felt normal, and somewhere along the line, he stopped surviving and started building. But success didn't erase memory. If anything, it made it louder. Every time he sat at a table filled with food, he remembered what it felt like to be hungry. Every time someone respected him, he remembered what it felt like to be invisible. And every time someone praised him, he thought of her. "You're different," one of his colleagues told him during a late-night meeting. "How?" "You don't celebrate like the rest of us." He shrugged slightly. "I know what it's like to lose everything." The colleague laughed lightly. "Man, you're rich now. Relax." He didn't respond, because money didn't erase the past. It just gave him the power to return to it. Back in the neighborhood, things had changed too, just not in the same way. The streets looked the same. Same cracked sidewalks, same faded buildings, but the people, they carried more weight now, including her. She didn't work at the diner anymore. That place shut down years ago. Now she ran a small food stand on the corner. Nothing fancy, just enough to get by. But she ran it with discipline, consistency, focus. 2 orders coming up, she called out, moving quickly between tasks. Her movements were efficient, her voice steady, but her eyes, they didn't linger on anything too long. Not people, not memories, not the past. "You ever take a day off?" a regular customer asked. She shook her head. "Days off don't pay bills." "You work too hard." "Not hard enough," she replied, handing over an order. The customer studied her for a second. "You always been like this?" She paused, just for a moment, then continued working. "I learned. Learned the hard way, learned through disappointment, through waiting, through realizing that sometimes people don't come back." Meanwhile, miles away, he stood in front of a mirror adjusting his cufflinks. The reflection staring back at him was unrecognizable compared to who he used to be. Clean, sharp, controlled, but behind the surface, there was still something unfinished. A knock came at the door. "You ready?" his assistant asked. He glanced at the bracelet sitting on the table beside him. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he picked it up, held it, and slipped it into his pocket. "Yeah," he said, "I'm ready." But he wasn't talking about the meeting. The decision didn't come suddenly. It built over time, in quiet moments, in late nights, in spaces where success felt empty. Because no matter how far he went, there was always something pulling him back. A promise, not just to her, but to himself, that he wouldn't forget where he started, and more importantly, who helped him survive it. One evening after closing a major deal, his business partner raised a glass. "To the future," the man said. He lifted his glass too, but his mind was somewhere else. "Actually," he said, setting it down, "I've got something I need to take care of." The man frowned slightly. "Now?" "Yeah." "What's so important?" He didn't hesitate. "Something I should have done a long time ago." Back at the food stand, she wiped down the counter as the evening slowed. The rush had passed. The street was quieter now. A soft breeze moved through, carrying the usual mix of city sounds. She leaned slightly against the counter, stretching her back. For a brief second, she allowed herself to breathe. No rush, no pressure, just stillness. But even in that stillness, her mind didn't rest. It wandered. Not often, but sometimes. Back to a time when things felt different, when hope felt easier, when promises didn't feel so distant. She shook her head slightly, snapping herself out of it. "Focus," she muttered, because thinking like that didn't help anymore. It didn't change anything. Miles away, the convoy prepared to move. Engines started, doors opened, security checked positions, everything precise, everything controlled. He stepped out of the building and paused for a moment before getting in. His assistant looked at him. "You sure about this?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah." "You didn't give much detail." "I didn't need to." She studied him for a second, then simply said, "All right." He got into the car. The door shut. And just like that, the journey back began. The drive felt longer than it should have, not because of distance, but because of memory. Every mile brought something back. Every street they passed reminded him of something he used to be, something he refused to forget. As the city shifted from polished buildings to worn-down neighborhoods, his expression changed. Not fear, not regret, just awareness. "This is it?" the driver asked. "Yeah," he said quietly. The convoy slowed, then turned into the street. The same place where everything started, only now. Everything was different. Back at the stand, she didn't notice at first. Why would she? Cars passed through all the time, but this felt different. People started looking, whispering, moving slightly closer to the road. "What's going on?" one customer asked. She glanced up briefly, then went back to work, until the cars stopped, right in front of her. That's when her hands paused, just slightly, her grip tightening around the cup, her breathing shifting, slow, careful, controlled. The door opened, and he stepped out. The street didn't move, it watched. Every eye followed him as he stepped forward, the sound of his shoes hitting the pavement steady, unhurried. He didn't look around, didn't acknowledge the whispers, didn't react to the attention. His focus stayed locked on her, behind the counter, exactly where she had always been, but not the same, not even close. Up close, he could see it now. The difference, the weight in her eyes, the way her posture held strength but also distance. Still, he stepped forward anyway because he didn't come this far to hesitate now. He stopped at the counter. For a second, neither of them spoke. The world around them blurred. Then, "Hey." Her fingers tightened slightly around the edge of the counter, but her face stayed composed, neutral, professional. "I told you I'd come back," he said again, softer this time. "For a brief moment." Something cracked in her expression, something real, something familiar, but it vanished just as quickly as it appeared. "I'm sorry," she said flatly. "You've got the wrong person." The words landed again, just as hard, just as cold, and this time there was no mistaking it. She meant it, or at least she wanted him to believe she did. "You don't recognize me?" he asked, searching her face. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned slightly, grabbing a cup, focusing on something else. "What can I get you?" she asked, like he was just another customer. That stung more than anything. "You're serious right now?" he asked, his voice tightening just a little. She finally looked at him again, straight in the eyes. "I don't know you." The finality in her tone, it wasn't confusion, it was a decision, a choice. And that's what made it worse. A few people nearby exchanged looks. "Man, she really doesn't know him," someone whispered. "Or she's pretending," another muttered. He heard both, but neither helped. He leaned slightly closer, lowered his voice. "It's me." Her jaw tightened almost invisibly, but she didn't break. "I said I don't know you." Silence stretched, heavy, uncomfortable. He exhaled slowly, then nodded once. "All right." No anger, no scene, just quiet acceptance. He stepped back, turned, and walked away. The same way he walked in, controlled, but this time, something inside him shifted, something unsettled. Inside the SUV, the silence was louder than anything outside. His assistant glanced at him from the front seat. "Everything okay?" she asked carefully. He didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed fixed out the window as the neighborhood slowly passed by. "She said she doesn't know me," he said, finally. The assistant frowned. "You think she actually doesn't remember?" "No," he said, without hesitation. "Then why would she say that?" That was the question, the one that didn't make sense, the one that didn't fit. He leaned back slightly, thinking, replaying every second of that moment, her eyes, her voice, her reaction. "She recognized me," he said. "Then why? I don't know." And that bothered him more than the rejection itself, because if she didn't remember him, that would have been easier. But she did. He saw it. For a split second before she shut it down. Back at the stand, she didn't move for a few seconds after he left. Not immediately. Not visibly, but inside. Everything shifted. Her hands rested on the counter, still. Too still. "Hey, you good?" a customer asked. She blinked, snapped back. "Yeah," she said quickly. "What did you order again?" 2 hot dogs." "Right." She moved again, fast, efficient, focused, like nothing happened. But her rhythm wasn't the same. Not quite, not steady, not natural. She kept her head down, avoiding the direction he walked away, avoiding the memory trying to rise up. Because the moment she let it in, she knew it wouldn't stop. That night, she closed earlier than usual. No explanation, no long conversations, just quiet, quick, done. By the time she got home, the streets were mostly empty. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, closed it behind her, and leaned against it. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then her hand came up to her face, pressing against her forehead. "Why now?" she whispered. Her voice cracked slightly. Not loud, not dramatic, just tired. Because she knew exactly who he was. From the moment she saw him, the way he walked, the way he looked at her, the way he said her name without saying it, she knew. And that's exactly why she said what she said. Across the city, he sat in his apartment staring at the bracelet in his hand, the same one she gave him years ago. He turned it slowly between his fingers. "You said don't forget," he muttered. "I didn't." His jaw tightened slightly. "Then why are you acting like I did?" He stood up suddenly, restless, unsettled. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, not after everything, not after all the years. He ran a hand through his hair, thinking, analyzing, breaking it down like a problem he needed to solve, because that's what he did now. He found answers. He didn't sit in confusion. She recognized me, he said again to himself. So what changed? The next morning he didn't go back immediately. He waited, watched, observed, not from a distance like a stranger, but like someone trying to understand something deeper. He had people, resources, access, things he didn't have before, and for the first time since returning, he used them. I need information, he told his assistant. On who? He didn't hesitate. Her. The assistant nodded. All right, what exactly are we looking for? Everything. Back at the stand, she opened like usual. Same time, same routine, same focus. But something was different. Not visible to everyone, but to her, it was loud. Every time a car slowed down, her eyes flickered up for a second longer than necessary. Every time footsteps approached, her attention shifted just a little quicker. She hated that after all this time. He could still affect her like that. Relax, she muttered to herself. He's not coming back. Because why would he? He got his answer, clear, final. There was no reason for him to return, and yet, something in her chest didn't settle, not fully. Later that afternoon, his assistant walked into his office holding a file. I've got something, she said. He looked up immediately. What is it? She placed the file on the desk. Her life didn't exactly stay the same after you left. He opened it, flipped through. His expression shifted slowly as he read. What is this? He asked. Everything we could gather. He kept reading, and with every page, the confusion started turning into something else, something heavier, something deeper. This doesn't make sense, he said. It does, the assistant replied quietly. He looked up. How? She hesitated for a second, then said, because people change when life forces them to. Silence. He leaned back slowly, still processing, still connecting the pieces, and for the first time since she said those words, I don't know you, he started to understand that maybe. This wasn't about forgetting. He didn't speak for a while, just stared at the file in front of him. Page after page told a story he wasn't there to see. A story he didn't know, a story that explained more than he expected and hurt more than he was ready for. She lost the diner 2 years after you left, his assistant said quietly. New management, they cut staff. She didn't make the list. He frowned slightly. She always worked harder than everyone there. That doesn't always matter, she replied. He didn't argue because he knew that was true. He flipped another page. What's this? He asked. She took on multiple jobs after that, the assistant continued. Day shifts, night shifts, whatever she could get. He read further. His jaw tightened. Family? He asked. She had to step in, the assistant said. Things weren't stable at home. She became the reliable one. He leaned back slightly, exhaling. So she carried everything? Pretty much. Silence filled the room, heavy, because now things started making sense, not everything, but enough. He picked up the bracelet again, staring at it. She told me not to forget her, he said quietly, and I didn't. The assistant didn't respond because there was nothing to say. Back at the stand, she was quieter than usual, not rude, not distant, just reserved, more than normal. You good today? One of her regulars asked. Yeah. You sure? I said yeah. The tone wasn't harsh, but it wasn't open either. The customer nodded slowly. All right. She handed over the order without another word, but the moment he walked away, her hand paused mid-motion, because no matter how much she tried to stay focused, her mind kept going back to yesterday, to him, to the way he looked at her, like nothing had changed, like everything still mattered. "Stop," she muttered under her breath, because she knew better. Or at least, she told herself she did. That evening, as she started closing up, she felt it before she saw it. That presence, that shift in the air, the same one from the day before. Her movements slowed, just slightly, then stopped. She didn't turn immediately, didn't rush, just stood there for a second before finally looking up. He was there, no convoy this time, no attention, just him, standing a few feet away, alone. Her chest tightened instantly, but her face didn't show it. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. He took a step closer. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "There is," he said firmly. "No," she replied. "There isn't." She turned away, continuing to pack up like he wasn't there, but he didn't leave, didn't back down. "You recognized me," he said. Her hands paused for half a second, then kept moving. "You've got the wrong person." "I don't," he said, his voice tightening slightly, "and you know it." She exhaled slowly, trying to stay in control. "I don't have time for this." "Then make time," he replied. That made her turn, fast. Her eyes met his, and this time there was emotion in them. Not hidden, not controlled, raw. "I said I don't know you," she snapped. "And I'm telling you that's not true," he shot back. Silence hit between them, sharp, heavy. Because now, it wasn't just tension, it was confrontation. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Why are you doing this?" Her expression shifted. Not soft, not yet, but not as hard either. "You wouldn't understand." "Then help me understand," he said. She shook her head. "You don't get it." "Then explain it." "I don't owe you that," she replied. That landed, hard. He paused, then nodded slowly. "You're right," he said. "I left." She didn't respond. "I wasn't there." Still nothing. "But I came back," he continued, "like I said I would." That made her laugh, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was sharp, bitter. "You came back?" she repeated. "After how long?" He didn't answer, because he knew. Years, too many. "You think you can just disappear," she continued, her voice rising slightly, "and then show up one day like nothing happened?" "I didn't disappear," he said. "I was trying to build something." "For who?" she cut in. He froze, because that question wasn't simple. "For us," he said finally. Her expression hardened again. "There is no us," she said. Silence. The words hung there, clear, final, but he didn't accept them. "Don't do that," he said. "Do what?" "Act like this didn't matter," he replied. She stared at him for a long second, then, "You don't get to decide what mattered," she said quietly. That hit deeper than anything else, because it wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, it was honest, and that made it heavier. He took a slow breath. "I didn't forget you." She looked away. "Good for you." "I kept the bracelet," he added. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, but he saw it. "I kept every word you said," he continued. "Every moment, every reason I had to keep going." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't turn back. "And I came back," he said, softer now. "For you." Silence. Then, "I didn't ask you to." That stopped him completely, because that changed everything. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension between them wasn't loud anymore. It was quiet, heavy, real. "You think I needed you to come back and save me?" she said finally. He didn't answer, because he didn't know how. "I figured things out," she continued, "on my own." "I can see that," he said. "Can you?" she shot back. "Because if you could, you wouldn't be standing here acting like I'm the same person you left behind." He paused. Because she was right. She wasn't the same. Not even close. "And that's the problem," she said. You came back expecting something that doesn't exist anymore. Her voice cracked slightly at the end, but she held it together, barely. I didn't expect anything, he said. Yes, you did, she replied. You expected me to be waiting. He didn't respond, because part of him did, and she saw that clear as day. That's not how life works, she said quietly. No, he admitted, it's not. Silence again, but this time it felt different, less defensive, more honest. He looked at her, really looked this time, at the exhaustion, at the strength, not demanding, just honest. She looked at him for a long moment as if weighing something. Then, I don't know, she said. And that was the most honest answer she could give. They stood there in silence, but this silence, it wasn't tense. It wasn't sharp. It was open, for the first time since he returned. Can I ask you something? He said. She nodded slightly. Did you ever stop believing I'd come back? She hesitated, then answered truthfully, no. That hit him in a way he didn't expect. Then why? Because believing and waiting aren't the same thing, she said. And that explained everything. He exhaled slowly, then nodded. I get that, he said. She looked at him, surprised. You do? Yeah, he said. I had to stop waiting too. For what? For things to be easy, he replied. A small pause, then, what if we don't go back? He said. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? What if we don't try to pick up where we left off? He continued. What if we just start where we are now? She studied him carefully, because that sounded simple, but it wasn't. And what does that look like? She asked. He shrugged slightly. Two people who went through a lot, trying to figure something out. She let out a quiet breath. You make it sound easy. It's not, he said, but neither was anything else we've been through. Silence. But this time, there was something new in it. Possibility. She looked down briefly, then back up at him. I'm not the same girl, she said. I know. I don't trust easily. I understand. I don't wait around anymore. I wouldn't ask you to. Another pause, then, and I'm not impressed by money, she added. He almost smiled. Good, he said, because that's not what I came back with. She raised a brow slightly. Then what did you come back with? He looked at her, steady. Perspective. That answer, it wasn't flashy, but it was real. She let that sit for a moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. That one word carried more weight than anything else. Not a yes, not a no, but an opening. He glanced at the stand. Are you still open? He asked. She blinked. What? Are you still open? He repeated. She looked at the clock, then back at him. Technically. Good, he said, stepping closer to the counter. Let me get something. She stared at him for a second, then shook her head slightly, almost amused. What do you want? He looked at the menu, then back at her. Same thing you used to give me. Her expression softened, just a little. We don't have that on the menu, she said. I know, he replied. A small pause, then, I'll make it anyway. As she turned to prepare the food, her movements felt different, lighter, not easy, but not as heavy as before, and as he stood there watching her, he realized something. Coming back wasn't about fulfilling a promise, it was about understanding what that promise meant now, and maybe, just maybe, they were finally ready to find out. If you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just a love story. It was about growth, timing, and becoming who you need to be before you can meet someone where they are. If this story moved you even a little, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment telling me what you think would happen next, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Because sometimes the right people don't meet at the right time. They meet again when they're ready. The end.